St. Peter's Square right now at the Vatican, where Catholics have gathered for fellowship as the world grieves the loss of Pope Francis. Good afternoon to you. That word came out very early this morning, likely the first thing you saw pop up on your phone. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Pope Francis died around 1:30 this morning, Eastern Time.
And we also have new information about his arrangements coming in just the last few hours. After the final rite of ascertainment of death, Pope Francis will be placed in a coffin about 2 hours from now after a series of last rites. He requested a simple wooden casket. Pope Francis also asked to be laid to rest in Rome's St. Mary Major Basilica instead of in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica.
And here in the WRAL Live Center, we are tracking leaders across the world paying tribute to Pope Francis. President Trump writing on Truth Social, rest in peace. May God bless him and all who loved him. Also, in the last 25 minutes or so, he also posted this as a mark of respect for the memory of His Holiness. He is going to tell everybody they need to fly their flags at half-staff at the White House, as well as military bases and other buildings across the country today. We're also hearing from Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. She posted this to X, writing, "It was a great honor and privilege to know the Pope, calling him a humanist who stood for the poor, peace, and equality." Also, the president of Brazil also saying Francis always stood by those who need it the most, the poor, the refugees, the young, the elderly, and the victims of wars and all forms of prejudice.
Some Catholics here in Raleigh are marking the Pope's passing by attending a noon mass that will surely speak to the Pope's life and legacy.
WRAL Sean Gallagher is live outside Sacred Heart Church for us this noon. Sean.
Yeah, Jeff and Renee, they're expecting to have a mass here where they acknowledge the Pope's passing when Bishop Luis Zarama has his homily here at Sacred Heart. Now, it's set to take place here in just about 10 minutes where they will honor the life and legacy of Pope Francis. Now, over the last 12 years, Pope Francis remembered as more of a progressive pontiff, shaking up the Catholic Church by taking a much more welcoming approach to LGBTQ inclusion in the church, and he was the first Latin American Pope. Francis was a strong advocate for the rights of immigrants and refugees. Bishop Luis here, a fellow South American, was appointed by Pope Francis as the 6th bishop of the Diocese of Raleigh in 2017 and had some passings with him. Earlier this morning, Bishop Luis releasing a statement on behalf of the diocese, recalling those meetings he had with Pope Francis over the years, saying he was amazed how Pope Francis demonstrated that same humility and humanity in every interaction with every person he met. Now, again, he is scheduled to start that mass here in just about 10 minutes here at Sacred Heart. Of course, we will bring you the latest from what he has to say during his homily of the man that appointed him to this position in Raleigh later this evening. In Raleigh, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
The timing of the Pope's death came as a surprise. His health appeared to be improving.
Just yesterday, he was driven around St. Peter's Square in an open-air Pope mobile to greet the crowds that were out there, all the faithful there for Easter. NBC's Claudio Lavagna has the reaction from the Vatican.
The announcement of Pope Francis's death early this morning came as a shock to Catholics around here, but also around the world. Tens of thousands of people were just here in St. Peter's Square only 24 hours ago following the Easter celebrations, and Pope Francis surprised everyone by appearing on that central balcony, St. Peter's Basilica, unannounced, to impart the blessing, to wish everyone happy Easter. He, of course, looked frail, as is done for the past few months, especially also after he left a hospital more than a month ago. But there were some signs that his health was recovering. He was not wearing those oxygen tubes in his nose anymore. He got on that Pope mobile to tour St. Peter's Square among the ecstatic crowd of pilgrims around here, and those were taken as signs that his health were improving. And only a few hours later, the Vatican announced that the Pope was dead. Now, what's going to happen next is, in 2 days, the Pope will lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica, allowing the Catholics and pilgrims and everyone else who appreciated and loved the Pope to pay their last respects. Then in 4 to 6 days, we do expect a funeral for Pope Francis to take place here in St. Peter's Square. And then in 15 to 20 days from now, the conclave will take place. Of course, that is the process through which cardinals will have to elect a new Pope. Shortly after that, on the same day, whenever we'll see white smoke coming out of the Sistine Chapel, the new Pope will appear on the same balcony right there in St. Peter's Basilica, where just 24 hours ago Pope Francis wished everyone happy Easter to announce who the next Pope is going to be. But we're not going to know that before 20 days from now, even longer perhaps. This is Claudio Lavanga for NBC News in the Vatican.
WRAL was there when Pope Francis was elected to the position.
5 ballots and the church has its new leader. This Pope taking the name of Francis of Assisi.
David Crabtree brought us the news straight from the Vatican that day. He joins us in less than 10 minutes. Our coverage continues at 12:30 as well. Chelsea Donovan spoke with a Raleigh native who saw the Pope's final Palm Sunday appearance in person. And stay with WRAL online and on the air throughout the day for reaction and events locally and around the world.
The bells right there of St. Peter's Square tolling the news to the world this morning that Pope Francis has died.
WRAL was there when a puff of white smoke told the world in 2013 a new pope had been elected, Pope Francis. Former anchor David Crabtree covered that historic event for us, and he joins us now. David, I vividly remember seeing you outside the Vatican, photographer Keith Baker capturing that moment. Tell us what that moment was like.
Yeah, it was March 13th, 2013. We had been waiting. We had seen several days when black smoke appeared, meaning no election had happened. When we saw the white smoke, it gave me chills. It still does give me chills seeing that again, remembering that moment, hearing the bells begin to peal in St. Peter's Square, and then the crowds just rushing, jumping over barriers, doing anything they could to be a part of what was happening in St. Peter's Square. It was an amazing moment.
A memorable moment for sure. You were also there for Pope Francis's only official visit to the U.S. as Pope in 2015. What do you remember from that reception and what stood out to you?
2 things in particular, Renee. One, his address to Congress. It was a joint session, a special session of Congress, and he delivered that address in English, the entire address. It was amazing. The reception of members of Congress, whether they were Catholic, non-Catholic, whether they were Democrat, Republican, knew the moment that was happening before them. And then talking with members of our congressional delegation afterward, how excited they were to have been a part of that day. It was really a magical time in Washington and throughout the country. And then Keith and I also went on to follow the Pope in Philadelphia, where the crowds were just massive to see him. And it was not only the reality of those massive crowds that lined the streets for hours and hours just for a chance to get a glimpse of him as he drove by, but also the stories of watching him go to the prisons in and around Philadelphia, to meet with the marginalized, to meet with people who never expected to meet anyone of this stature, was quite humbling.
David, I know covering Pope Francis at the Vatican and his visit to the U.S. just rank among the most memorable moments of your career at WRAL. We thank you for sharing your perspective and your insights. Always good to see you, my friend.
Always good to see you, and thanks, Renee.